You know, in this day and age, sometimes, you know, you have to Netflix and chill with the babes, you know. So, you know, sometimes you might have to watch a little movie, you know, watch a little documentary. I love documentaries, innit? You know, whether it's music documentaries, history documentaries, but we're not gonna talk about that. This is a wrestling channel. I mean, I feel like nowadays there's not really, because of social media, you can't really document stuff too much like that. A lot of the wrestling promotions have taken that kind of format and you've used it for like their backstage segments and whatnot. So today we're gonna talk about 5, not 4, not 3, not 2, not 1, but 5 documentaries that you as a wrestling fan, you have to see. All right, cool. So for number 1, we've got one of my favorite documentaries and one of the most controversial documentaries. When I say controversial, listen to this. Bret Hart punched out Vince McMahon. But yeah, this is Hitman Hart, Wrestling with Shadows. I feel like this documentary kind of like likens to Beyond the Mat. So if you've seen Beyond the Mat, it kind of shows like the disparity of like real life and the wrestling life and how the lines are kind of blurred. And you more or less see the story of Bret Hart with, you know, his final days within WWE. And you know, you see that he's having some internal conflicts. Like he wants to be the hero, like, but people aren't really feeling him. Like you can see that he's kind of finding it hard to adapt to the whole Attitude Era. And he wants to make Vince McMahon proud, but at the same time, he wants to go over to WCW because, you know, money after mech, you hear me? So you have to watch this documentary because it more or less details the whole Montreal Screwjob situation. And if you don't know about the Montreal Screwjob, if you don't know about Bret doing the WCW on screen, then this gives you a bit of an insight onto it. So definitely go and check out Wrestling with Shadows. So for number 2, this isn't necessarily a documentary by itself, but it's a documentary series. This is Dark Side of the Ring. It was commissioned by Vice. Enough will even tell you, this is like one of the best series we've ever seen, like from the storytelling, even like the B-roll and the vignettes that they ended up using just to kind of like portray on some of the stories that happen. Like talking about unsolved murder, they're talking about suicide within a family, even the Montreal Screwjob as well. Is it real? Is it fake? Was Bret Hart in on it? You know, this is the golden age of wrestling. We don't really see a lot of documentaries on that. It's more or less the Attitude Era and further on. So if you want to kind of explore the history of the golden era and, you know, not just in America, but stuff that's happening outside of it, Dark Side of the Ring is definitely one to watch. For number 3, my name is Paul Heyman. Hey, you see this guy? Paul Heyman is one of the greatest people in wrestling. Not even just wrestler or manager, just one of the greatest people. So if you're a big fan of Paul Heyman, I definitely recommend this documentary. It more or less tells you the story of, you know, how he started off in the wrestling industry. You know, he started off as a journalist, then ended up being on-screen talent for WCW. You know, he was Paulie Dangerous, and he had his Dangerous Alliance. If you don't know about the Dangerous Alliance in WCW, go and look that up. And then from WCW, he went on to birth ECW, the game-changing ECW. I feel like, you know, if you see Paul Heyman and you see a lot of his interviews, he doesn't really break his character, but just watching this documentary, it kind of like, you have a feel, like you kind of see that he's very passionate about this business, passionate about this sport. And, you know, a lot of wrestlers will say to you that he has a lot of passion for like building new stars and, you know, helping people align themselves within this industry. So if you're a big Paul Heyman fan and you've got 2 hours to spare, go and check this motherfucking shit out. So for number 4, this isn't necessarily an official documentary, but it's from a YouTube channel. Make sure you check them out, Reliving Wrestling. And this one is called Lucky Break, the main event push of Bob Holly. So for me, I feel like this is one of the best documentaries I've seen also, because just of the sheer fact that sometimes in wrestling, we see certain things and because it's such a long time ago, we forget, and it kind of has like this, it kind of gives you, kind of puts that fantasy booking in your head of, wow, I wish I would have done this instead. So in 2002, during Brock Lesnar's reign as the undisputed champion, no, WWE champion, he was feuding with Undertaker. And obviously, as they used to do back in the day, not like now where they do repeat booking, they used to have wrestling matches against different people and it'd be entertaining. Brock Lesnar ended up having a match with Bob Holly, and during the match, he ended up breaking Bob Holly's neck, which took him out of the sideline for like 2 years. So 2 years down the line, they incorporated a story where Bob Holly returns and he comes for Brock Lesnar, and how he got a main event push from there. So you kind of see how he came back and how they messed up the push completely, and you know, they both said their side of the story of how it just didn't work out. And I know there's a lot of people out there that does a lot of fantasy booking themselves. If you guys watch this, I'm sure there's stuff that you can see that you probably do different to what was done during that time. So definitely check that out, and big shouts to Reliving Wrestling, because their documentaries, they've got one on Booker T and how they didn't push him against his against Triple H and whatnot. So just go check them out. They've got some sick documentaries out there. And for number 5, we've got Forever Hardcore. In 2004, WWE, they produced a documentary called The Rise and Fall of ECW. And of course, they're only gonna have former ECW employees that work for WWE at that time. So it's not gonna like, at that time, none of the big ECW stars were working in WWE anyways, maybe besides the Dudley Boys. You had people like Nunzio, you had people like, I don't know, you didn't really have people, not of credibility, but come on man, they weren't the stars of ECW at that time. Following year, Jerry Maborash done his own documentary on ECW, and he had the likes of Shane Douglas, he had Francine, he had Raven. He had a lot of the former ECW alumni, and I feel like this is probably one of the most gripping documentaries you ever see. And what's funny about it is that, obviously because WWE owned the stock footage of ECW, you can't see any footage. You're just gonna see them talking, and you're gonna see images just placed on top of the screen, and they just go in depth. They talk about the problems backstage of Paul Heyman not paying talent. You have New Jack talking about the mass transit situation. If you don't know what the mass transit is, go and look that up. New Jack is a crazy mother beep. He's a fucked guy. They talk about the crucifixion that ended up stopping Kurt Angle from getting signed to ECW. They talk about a whole load of stuff. So yeah, that kind of gives you like a more uncensored, unbiased view on the rise and fall of ECW as opposed to WWE's version, which was heavily produced, and it was just, you know, it's not really the main story. You're not going to hear it from some of the main guys that weren't in WWE at that time. And that is my 5 documentaries. I think there's a few notable mentions we can probably give. Triple H's documentary was sick. CM Punk's documentary was sick. What was the documentary you were talking about, the Royal Rumble one?
The True Story of the Royal Rumble.
True Story of the Royal Rumble, that one is sick. There's a documentary I watched on Ring of Honor, the Ring of Honor CZW.
Triple H one's sick as well.
Triple H one's sick. There's loads of documentaries. If we missed any out that you think were good, or maybe the ones you thought I mentioned were crap, let me know. And comment, like, subscribe, #5 on it, and bow. Can you dig that?
Sucker!